The first Ponzi scheme happened over 100 years ago. It should have died with him. Instead, someone is running his exact playbook right now. On your phone, in your DMs, through your crypto wallet. Every scam on this list is old. The people copying them today are very much alive. By the end of this video, you'll recognize the pattern before it ever reaches you. Let's start at number 6. In 1919, Charles Ponzi convinced Boston he'd found a legal loophole in international postage vouchers, promising 50% returns in 45 days. There was no loophole. He was just paying old investors with new investors' cash. It collapsed in 1920. He went to prison. Case closed. Except it wasn't. Fast forward to 2014. A Bulgarian-German businesswoman named Ruja Ignatova launches something called OneCoin, a cryptocurrency she claims will replace Bitcoin. There's a catch nobody notices at first. OneCoin has no real blockchain. The coin only exists inside OneCoin's own private ledger, worth whatever the company decides to say it's worth. She recruits investors the same way Ponzi did. Pay early members with money from new members, and give everyone a reason to recruit their friends and family. Except now, it's not one city, it's the entire world, moving through encrypted apps and wire transfers instead of door-to-door visits. Estimates suggest OneCoin took in over $4 billion from investors across more than 100 countries before regulators caught on. And here's the part that should unsettle you. In October 2017, Ruja Ignatova boarded a flight to Athens and vanished. She's still on the FBI's 10 most wanted list today. Ponzi died in poverty in 1949. His copycat may still be spending stolen billions somewhere right now. Cassie Chadwick convinced Cleveland's bankers she was Andrew Carnegie's secret daughter, forged notes worth millions, and lived like royalty on credit alone. A century later, someone ran almost the exact same con, just with better clothes. Anna Sorokin arrived in New York claiming to be Anna Delvey, a German heiress with a €60 million trust fund. No trust fund existed. What she had instead was total confidence, expensive taste, and a talent for making powerful people afraid to be the one who asked an awkward question. She stayed in 5-star hotels without paying, convinced banks to consider massive loans, and got friends and acquaintances to cover thousands in expenses, restaurants, private jets, designer wardrobes, on the promise she'd pay them back the moment her funds cleared. Between 2013 and 2017, she's estimated to have defrauded hotels, banks, and individuals out of roughly $275,000. Modest compared to some names on this list, but it worked for years on some of the most sophisticated financial institutions in the world. She was convicted of fraud in 2019. And just like Chadwick before her, the lesson she exposed was never really about the money. It was about how far confidence alone can carry a lie when nobody wants to be the person who says, "Prove it." In 1995, Nick Leeson hit a small trading loss in a secret account, then bet bigger and bigger trying to make it disappear, until an £800 million hole collapsed Britain's oldest bank. 13 years later, almost nobody had learned the lesson. Jérôme Kerviel was a mid-level trader at Société Générale, one of France's largest banks. Like Leeson, he started making unauthorized trades, hiding them using his own inside knowledge of the bank's back-office systems, since he'd worked there before becoming a trader. He built offsetting fake trades to make his real, unauthorized positions invisible to risk controls, quietly building a position worth over €50 billion, larger than the bank's entire market value, without anyone noticing for months. When the market turned against him in January 2008, Société Générale had to unwind the position in days, losing an estimated €4.9 billion, one of the largest trading losses in banking history at the time. Kerviel always maintained his bosses quietly knew and looked away as long as he was profitable, a defense he still makes today. Leeson and Kerviel, 13 years and one English channel apart, prove the same hole in the system never actually got patched.
Frank Abagnale built an entire criminal career by forging documents and impersonating professionals, pilots, doctors, lawyers, using nothing but paper, confidence, and the fact that verification was slow. Today, criminals don't need to forge a signature. They can forge your voice. Since around 2019, a wave of scams has used AI voice cloning tools that need only a few seconds of someone's real voice, pulled from a social media video, a voicemail greeting, anything, to generate a convincing clone. Scammers have used cloned voices of company executives to trick employees into wiring company funds, and cloned voices of family members, crying and panicked, to convince parents their child had been kidnapped and needed ransom money immediately. The FTC has logged tens of thousands of these family emergency impersonation scams, with total reported losses in the hundreds of millions of dollars just in the US. Abagnale spent his later career becoming a fraud prevention consultant, warning that forgery gets easier as technology advances. He wasn't wrong. He just underestimated how far easier would eventually go. Ferdinand Damara talked his way into jobs he had zero qualifications for, including performing actual surgery as a fake Navy doctor, relying purely on memorized textbooks and raw nerve. Remote work just gave his descendants an entire industry to work with. In recent years, security researchers and companies including Google and CrowdStrike have identified networks, some tied to North Korean state operations, where individuals use fake identities, stolen resumes, and even real-time deepfake video filters to get hired as remote IT workers at Western companies. Once inside, some funnel their salaries back to fund weapons programs. Others use their inside access to steal company data or plant malware. Some of these fake employees have reportedly held down multiple full-time remote jobs simultaneously, with different fake identities, for years, without anyone in HR catching on. Damara did it alone, for the thrill of being believed. His modern equivalent is an organized, funded operation, proof that impersonation didn't go away when we started doing interviews over video calls. It just found a bigger stage. Shimon Hayut, born in Israel in 1990, later calling himself Simon Leviev, built an international scam almost entirely through swiping right. Using Tinder, he'd match with women and sweep them into a whirlwind of first-class flights and five-star dates, presenting himself as the heir to a billionaire diamond tycoon. Weeks or months in, once trust was established, he'd claim his enemies were tracking his accounts and stage a fake security emergency, sending photos of an injured bodyguard, begging the women to open credit cards and loans in their own names so he could safely borrow the money. He never paid it back. He used money from newer victims to pay off older ones, the same Ponzi mechanic, just wrapped in romance instead of a business pitch. He's estimated to have taken around $10 million this way before a Norwegian newspaper investigation and his ex-partner's cooperation led to his arrest in Greece in 2019. He served a brief sentence in Israel, was banned from every major dating platform after the 2022 Netflix documentary exposed him, and was arrested again in Georgia in 2025. Hayut worked alone, one woman at a time. What's happening in parts of Cambodia and Myanmar right now operates on an industrial scale, using the exact same emotional playbook. Investigators, the UN, and multiple news organizations have documented compounds where trafficked workers, many lured with fake job offers themselves, are forced, often under threat of violence, to run romance and investment scams over dating apps and messaging platforms, targeting victims across the US, Europe, and Asia. It's frequently called pig butchering, because victims are slowly fattened up with affection and fake investment wins before being drained completely. The UN has estimated hundreds of thousands of people may be trafficked into these compounds, with global losses from this style of scam estimated in the tens of billions of dollars. One man on Tinder took $10 million from a handful of women. The system built on his exact method is now taking billions from strangers who never even downloaded the same app he used. That's the real through line of this entire list. The method never dies. It just finds better tools and someone new willing to use them.
Here's the number nobody puts in the headline. The global scamming industry doesn't make millions. It doesn't make billions. Estimates put it between $442 billion and over $1 trillion every single year. If that industry was a country, its economy would rank inside the top 20 largest on Earth, bigger than most nations you could name. And it's not some far-off statistic. Nearly 1 in 4 adults worldwide has personally lost money to a scam in the last year alone. Not heard about, not almost fell for, actually lost money. 6 people, 1 playbook, a $1 trillion industry still running on it today.
Every method on this list is decades old. Every single one of them is still active today, run by someone who studied the original and simply modernized it. The common thread isn't technology or greed or even opportunity, it's trust, and how easily it can be manufactured by someone who sounds sure of themselves. If this made you rethink a message you got recently, good. That's the point. Let me know in the comments which one surprised you most, and subscribe for more.